Have you ever found yourself just standing at a crossroads, utterly paralyzed by a decision you have to make?
Oh, absolutely. It happens, right?
Yeah, maybe it's a big career change or, I don't know, a really major personal commitment, or even one of those tricky ethical things where you just can't see the way forward.
Hmm.
That moment, when the sheer weight of it all, especially if it involves people you care about or your core values,
Hmm.
it just brings you to a complete standstill.
Yeah, that internal conflict, it's intense.
It is that tightness in your chest, the thoughts just racing, feeling completely, utterly stuck. It's such a common human feeling, isn't it?
It really is. And it's a profound dilemma that, well, it stretches way back, back into these ancient stories that explore the very core of our consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where our deep dive begins today.
Okay.
We're stepping onto well, a legendary battlefield, but it's not just physical stones and dust. It's a mirror, really, for the internal battles so many of us face.
Right.
Imagine this warrior prince, Arjuna. He's right on the edge of this huge, unavoidable war. But the enemy, it's not just some faceless army. He's looking across the field and seeing his own family, his teachers, uncles, cousins, even his granduncle, someone he deeply respects.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is. And he's completely overwhelmed, utterly despondent. He actually collapses, drops his bow, refuses to fight. He just can't bring himself to kill his own relatives, his own kinsmen, for a kingdom he suddenly says he doesn't even want. The whole thing feels hollow to him.
So it's not just battle strategy he's worried about.
Not at all. This isn't just a scene from some old epic. It's like the ultimate picture of being paralyzed by a difficult choice. That feeling, it resonates so deeply even now.
That first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna Visha Yoga, it paints this with such incredible detail, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's almost like, like reading a transcript from a therapist's first session with someone in deep, deep psychological distress.
That's a great way to put it.
You can almost feel his despair, his hands trembling, the bow slipping. He talks about his skin burning, his mind reeling. He's describing his exact mental and physical state. It's such a raw snapshot of inner turmoil. And it feels incredibly relatable, even thousands of years later, for anyone who's felt that kind of crushing indecision.
And this moment, this profound crisis, it brings us right to the core frame for our discussion today. We want to look at the Bhagavad Gita, not just as an ancient text or, a religious scripture,
Right.
but as this profound, timeless psychological drama that unfolds right inside the human mind.
Okay.
At its heart, it's really an unparalleled exploration of our deepest nature, our most fundamental internal conflicts. And it offers a kind of systematic journey towards overcoming them, towards finding genuine inner freedom.
That's what makes it so relevant for us right here, right now. These incredible discussions between Krishna, who is Arjuna's charioteer, but also his divine guide, and Arjuna himself. They dive into these fundamental questions about existence, motivation, the nature of reality, all from a really intense psychological viewpoint. It's not just philosophy, is it? It feels more like a practical guide to how consciousness works.
Exactly. And then the later chapters from 2 through 18, they meticulously lay out this transformative roadmap, how to actually get from that state of paralysis where Arjuna starts to attaining the highest state of transcendence.
So what's our plan for this deep dive? How are we going to navigate this?
Well, our mission really is to guide you through 3 core psychological insights from the text. Think of them as maybe foundational pillars for mental mastery.
Okay, 3 pillars. What are they?
First, we'll really get into understanding our identity. We'll try to unpack that huge question, who am I? Beyond just the roles we play or the emotions we feel day to day, what's that unchanging core inside us?
Okay, identity. That makes sense. What's next?
Then, we'll shift focus to how we approach action. We'll explore, how should I act? How can we act with renewed focus and freedom? Especially when outcomes feel so uncertain or overwhelming, which, let's face it, happens a lot in our complex lives.
Absolutely. Acting with focus and freedom. Got it. And the third?
And finally, we'll explore cultivating a steady mind, aiming for what the Gita calls the ideal state of mind. Now, this isn't some vague, mystical idea. It's presented as a state that promises real, enduring peace, clarity, and resilience no matter what life throws at you.
Peace, clarity, resilience. Sounds good.
And critically, we're not just going to define these things. Our aim is to really explain the mechanism behind them, why they work psychologically, especially for modern life. We want to offer practical insights you can actually think about applying.
Fantastic. So understanding identity, transforming action, and cultivating a steady mind with the why behind it all. Let's dive in. Okay, Act 1, The crisis of identity, that big question, who am I? To really get Arjuna's situation, and maybe our own daily struggles too, we need to understand that battlefield. It's not just a physical place, is it?
No, not at all. It's a really potent, enduring metaphor for the internal conflicts we all face every single day. The external war, in a way, is just mirroring the internal one.
Right.
Arjuna's deep reluctance, his pain about fighting his relatives on that physical field, it directly mirrors the deep-seated conflicts raging inside us.
How so?
Well, think about it. Different parts of ourselves, our different duties, our loyalties, they often clash, sometimes violently. One part wants security, another wants freedom. Maybe you feel duty-bound to do something, but another part of you rebels against it. That's the inner battlefield.
Yeah, I could see that.
And the text mentions Duryodhana, who basically caused the whole war, and his blind father, Dhritarashtra, who's back in the palace.
Ah, yes, Dhritarashtra. What's interesting there is how he experiences the battle, isn't it? He gets this kind of remote viewing.
Exactly, a sort of divine omniscience, a live feed of the whole battlefield, given by Krishna to his charioteer, Sanjaya. He can see and hear everything happening from miles away.
And that immediately highlights something important, right? Even on the same battleground, you can have totally different perspectives, different levels of involvement.
Absolutely. Dhritarashtra is getting this blow-by-blow account. It's an intellectual understanding, maybe, but he's removed. Arjuna, on the other hand, is in it, immersed in the raw, emotional, moral chaos of the moment. He can't see past his immediate pain.
He's stuck at ground level.
Precisely. And this leads us straight to the fundamental problem the Gita tackles, which is the root of so much human suffering. We over-identify with temporary roles and fleeting aspects of ourselves.
Over-identification, what does that mean exactly?
Arjuna's despair, like so much human distress, comes from what Krishna calls a limited consciousness. We might call it a biopsychosocial identity today.
Okay, break that down. Biopsychosocial.
Right, so bio is your physical body, its feelings, its perceived strengths or weaknesses. Psycho covers your thoughts, your emotions, your moods that change all the time. And social includes all those temporary roles. Warrior, son, leader, parent, employee, friend, you name it.
Ah, okay.
Arjuna is completely wrapped up in these labels, these temporary roles. He's identified with his feelings of sadness and fear, and he's desperately attached to specific outcomes, winning or losing, his family surviving or not.
It's so powerful because the text explicitly says his conflict comes from identifying with something which is not real, meaning the self he's constructed, this collection of roles, feelings, attachments, isn't his true, deeper self.
Exactly. And this limited identity, clinging to this incomplete, changeable picture of me, creates these rigid boundaries and expectations.
Which inevitably leads to distress when reality doesn't match up.
Right. Because reality always deviates from our desires at some point. When the story we tell ourselves about who we are gets challenged, we feel threatened, we suffer.
So what's the solution, if that's the problem?
The solution presented is radical, but also profoundly simple. Krishna's core teaching to Arjuna is to discover a self beyond these temporary identities, a transcendental or spiritual self.
The real self.
Yes, the real self, which is described as unchanging, eternal. Unlike the temporary roles and emotions we experience and usually think of as us, it's the stable ground beneath the shifting sands of daily life.
Okay, so how do we access that? How do we shift perspective?
It's about becoming an observer or a witness. The source mentions either lifting yourself up from the narrow framework of your immediate situation or simply stepping back to witness everything that happens, thoughts, feelings, events, without getting entangled in them.
Like watching a movie instead of being the actor caught in the drama.
That's a good way to think about it. And this idea, this detachment, is captured in that classic phrase, yogasta kuru karmani, roughly, being established in that state of the observer, do all actions. It suggests that from this higher, more detached viewpoint, you can act effectively, powerfully, with clarity, but without getting swept away by the emotional chaos of the moment.
Okay, but why does this work? What's the psychological mechanism here? How does just observing help?
That's the key question. The mechanism is that this detachment profoundly reduces anxiety. When you operate from this transcendental state, the observer perspective, your actions don't taint or affect you in the same deep, personal way.
It's not about not caring, though, right?
Yeah, definitely not about apathy. It's a cognitive reframing. By identifying with the observer, you create psychological distance from the transient self that feels the pain or the pleasure. Think about watching that movie again.
Okay.
You might feel sad when a character suffers or happy when they succeed, but you know deep down it's not your immediate suffering or success. That distance allows you to process emotions without being totally overwhelmed.
Ah, I see. It breaks those feedback loops.
Exactly. Those loops that drive so much modern anxiety, constantly checking your phone for likes, worrying about what people think, chasing external validation. The Gita suggests this isn't just a mental trick. It's about accessing a deeper, more resilient part of your consciousness that naturally exists beyond those fleeting worries.
So it helps you go beyond the dualities, as the text says, like violence and nonviolence.
Precisely. From that ordinary, limited view, some things seem like irreconcilable opposites. But from the observer's perspective, you can see the bigger picture, reconcile apparent contradictions, and act with clarity and, ultimately, inner peace.
There's that analogy you mentioned, the hill analogy, Chamundi Hill. How does that illustrate this?
Right. Imagine you're standing at the very bottom of the hill. What do you see?
Just what's right in front of me. Houses, trees, the path maybe 10 steps ahead.
Exactly. That's Arjuna's initial view. Caught in his immediate conflict, overwhelmed by the present, unable to see beyond the dilemma right in front of him.
Okay.
Now, climb halfway up. What happens?
My view expands. I see more of the city, the landscape. I get a better sense of things, but still not the whole picture.
Right. You might see a bus moving down a road, an event happening now, but you don't know where it came from or where it's going.
Makes sense.
But then you reach the very top, the summit. What do you see?
Everything. A 360-degree view, past, present, future maybe. I can see the whole journey of that bus, where it started, where it's headed.
Precisely. Krishna tells Arjuna that he sees the past and future of everyone. That's why Arjuna's conflict seems so overwhelming to him. He's stuck at the foot of the hill, trapped in his limited, painful present. He can't grasp the larger design.
So shifting to the observer perspective is like climbing the hill.
Exactly. This shift in perception is what reduces the anxiety about immediate outcomes. It gives you that broader, liberating perspective on life and all its ups and downs.
And realizing you are the witness, the Atman.
Yes, the Atman. Described as the ground of all being, or ground awareness. It's the fundamental backdrop against which everything else, all experiences, thoughts, emotions, happens. When you connect with that, the temporary nature of suffering becomes crystal clear.
The conflict doesn't just disappear magically.
No, but your relationship to it changes. Your ability to navigate it changes fundamentally. You see it as part of a much larger canvas, not the entire picture.
Okay, so understanding we're the observer, not just the fleeting roles and feelings, that leads us naturally into Act 2, the path of action. The question becomes, how should I act now that I have this different perspective?
Yes, and this brings us to a really foundational concept in the Gita's psychological wisdom. It's a term many might have heard, nishkama karma.
Nishkama karma. What does that translate to?
It's often translated as action without attachment, or maybe more accurately, action with detachment from the fruits, the results of one's action.
Action without attachment to the results.
Right. And the core teaching here is simple, but, well, utterly revolutionary for our psychology. You have right only on your action, not on the reward.
You only have a right to the action, not the reward.
Exactly. This isn't just some philosophical nice to have. It's presented as a foundational principle for seriously reducing suffering, anxiety, disappointment in life.
No, it's really crucial to stress, isn't it, that nishkama karma does not mean inaction or passivity. People sometimes misunderstand that.
Oh, absolutely critical. That's a very common misunderstanding. The Indian tradition consistently emphasizes the importance of sincere effort, of diligent action. Nishkama karma isn't about sitting back and doing nothing.
So what is it about then?
It's about a profound internal shift, a shift in your mental focus, away from the outcome of the action, the prize, the promotion, the success or failure,
Right.
and towards the quality and intention of the action itself. It's about how you do something, the integrity, the dedication, the skill you bring to the process itself, not just being driven by what you hope to get from it.
That's a subtle shift, but it feels huge. Focusing on the doing rather than the getting.
It is a monumental shift in perspective.
Yeah.
And the text actually breaks down why. It says our actions and their outcomes are influenced by 5 key components.
5 components, okay.
4 of them are largely, though maybe not entirely, within our control. First, your motive or resolution, your intention behind the act. Second, the instruments or aim means you use your skills, your tools, the resources you have.
Skills and means, got it.
Third, the specific goal you aim for what you're actually trying to achieve.
Goal itself.
And fourth, your intense desire to act, the effort, the energy, the commitment you put in.
Effort and energy, right. So those 4 are mostly up to us.
Largely, yes. We
Yeah.
can influence those quite a bit. But the 5th component, the ultimate outcome, that's influenced by what the Gita calls divine thinking or a cosmic plan. Basically, variables beyond our personal control.
Like what?
Countless unseen forces, other people's choices, timing, sheer luck, or circumstance. Things we can't fully predict or manipulate.
Okay, so the big takeaway, the psychological release here is you can control your action, but you can't control the final outcome.
Precisely. You can prepare meticulously, you can strive with all your might, put in maximum effort and skill, but there's always this larger context, this web of factors beyond your personal grasp.
Like the students studying for an exam, they control the studying, the prep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But not the exact questions, how they feel that day, how others perform. There are always unknowns.
So let's get back to the why. Why is this Nishikama karma idea so effective psychologically, especially today?
Because by truly detaching your inner peace, your sense of self-worth, from that external outcome, your mind gets freed from that exhausting anxiety feedback loop.
The anxiety loop.
Yeah, that constant cycle of worrying, hoping, fearing, obsessing about future results. Will I get the job? Will they like me? Will this project succeed? When your happiness depends entirely on a specific external result.
You're constantly vulnerable. Exactly. Vulnerable to disappointment, frustration, fear. Nishkama karma breaks that cycle. It directly prevents those feelings of being depressed, dejected, those negative emotions that pop up when reality doesn't perfectly match our rigid expectations.
Because your well-being isn't solely tied to that specific result anymore.
Right, so you don't suffer in the same way when things don't go exactly as planned, which, let's be honest, they often don't.
This sounds quite different from some Western ideas like the locus of control. Usually, an internal locus believing you control outcomes is seen as positive.
It is often associated with success and agency, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the Gita adds this transpersonal dimension. It acknowledges that larger cosmic plan, that web of interdependence. It's not fatalism, though. It's not about giving up.
No.
No, quite the opposite. It emphasizes maximizing your personal effort, your skill, your dedication in the present moment, while simultaneously recognizing the limits of your personal control over the ultimate outcome.
So do your absolute best, but accept you don't control everything that happens next. Exactly. Put in your best work with skill, sincerity, focus, knowing that while you can't guarantee the specific fruit, your effort itself is complete, meaningful, deeply fulfilling. And that acceptance, knowing there are factors beyond your control, actually liberates you.
How so? Liberates you.
Your inner peace stops fluctuating with every external win or loss. You become more resilient, more stable inside.
And you mentioned this fosters flow and presence.
Yes, that's one of the most beautiful side effects. When your mind isn't constantly jumping ahead, worrying about results, judging yourself, wondering how you'll be perceived.
You can just be fully present in the action itself.
Totally absorbed. Think of a master artisan, a painter lost in the brushstroke, a sculptor feeling the clay, a musician immersed in the melody. They're not thinking about the applause or the critique yet.
They're just doing the work.
They're utterly present, focused on the nuance, the texture, the note, that complete absorption, that dedication to the act itself. That becomes the reward. The process itself is the joy, regardless of external validation.
So the action becomes fulfilling in itself.
Intrinsically fulfilling, yes. Independent of its external consequences, that deep presence, that commitment to quality in the moment. That's the real, enduring psychological gift of Nishkama karma. It turns every action into a kind of meditation,
Leading to contentment and peace.
a profound sense of inner contentment and peace.
Okay, so we've explored identity being the observer and action Nishkama karma, acting without attachment to results. Where does this all lead? What's the ultimate psychological goal here? That brings us to Act 3, the ideal state of mind or the steady mind.
Exactly. The ideal state described in the Gita is embodied by the sthitaprajna.
Sthitaprajna, what does that mean literally?
It literally means one established in wisdom. This isn't just theory. It's the tangible psychological goal. A person who has attained and is firmly rooted in that higher awareness we talked about.
So it's a state of clarity, balance.
Profound clarity, emotional balance, and an unwavering inner peace. It's really the aspiration for complete mental and emotional mastery.
And Arjuna, being practical, he wants specifics, right? He asks Krishna.
He does. It's such a human moment. He asks, essentially, who is this Sthitaprajna? What are their characteristics? How do they sit? How do they walk? How do they talk?
He wants a behavioral description, like what does this look like in real life, not just an abstract concept.
Exactly. He wants to know how to live from this place of wisdom. And Krishna responds, interestingly, by first outlining the opposite. He details this precise psychological sequence, a kind of chain of ruin, that leads to suffering and downfall when this steady mind isn't cultivated.
A chain of ruin. Okay, how does that work? It sounds like a warning.
It is, but it's also incredibly insightful about how negative emotional spirals start and escalate. It begins very subtly. Step 1, fixation on objects.
Fixation.
Yeah, when you continually think about objects of desire, things you believe will bring happiness or security, could be a new phone, a job title, a relationship, status, the mind just gets hooked, dwelling on these external things.
Okay, constant thinking about stuff we want. Then what? Step 2, attachment. That persistent thinking, dwelling, fantasizing, it leads to deep attachment. You start believing your happiness depends on getting that thing.
Right, I'll be happy when.
Exactly. Then, step 3, intense desire. Attachment fuels this intense, almost insatiable desire. It's not just wanting, it's craving, feeling incomplete without it.
Okay, craving. That leads to trouble, I imagine.
It does. Step 4, frustration, anger. When that intense desire inevitably gets blocked, reality doesn't cooperate, obstacles appear. The result is deep frustration, and that frustration almost immediately gives rise to anger.
Ah, the frustration-aggression link.
Precisely. The source even calls it the classic frustration-aggression hypothesis, known in modern psychology. Blocking goals often leads to aggression.
Makes sense. What happens after anger?
Step 5, clouded judgment. Anger, that fiery emotion, makes you lose your discriminative ability. Your capacity for clear, rational, objective thought just goes out the window. Judgment gets clouded, distorted, you can't see straight.
We've all been there.
Absolutely. And finally, step 6, loss of reason downfall. The Gita calls it smriti bhramsha. That clouded judgment leads to a complete loss of reason, forgetting your true nature, your purpose. And that, ultimately, is downfall. This isn't just a moral tale. It's described as a very detailed psychological process of how negative conditioning works, step by step.
Wow. That's quite a sequence, an internal roadmap to creating our own suffering, really, from just thinking about something.
To a full-blown emotional crisis, yes. But the Siddhaprajna, the one with the steady mind, has mastered this sequence.
So what are their defining qualities, then, if they've broken that chain?
Well, first, there's profound equanimity. They're not grieved in sorrow, nor over-exuberant or excited by happiness.
Wait, does that mean they don't feel things, like robots?
Not at all. They feel joy, they feel sorrow like anyone. But they aren't agitated or tossed about by these emotions. They remain anchored. Think of the deep ocean waves crash on the surface, but the depths remain calm. That's true equanimity.
Okay, anchored, not tossed about. What else?
Second, they have conquered desire, fear, and anger. These three are pinpointed as the primary emotional disturbances that wreck our inner peace and fuel that chain of ruin.
Conquered, not just suppressed.
Crucially, yes. Conquered implies mastery, understanding the roots of these emotions and transcending them, not just pushing them down where they can fester. It's freedom from being constantly pulled by craving or pushed by aversion.
That sounds like real inner freedom.
It is.
Yeah.
And it requires the third quality, profound mental discipline. Krishna uses this image of the mind being like the sail of a boat which is cut asunder. It just flies off, unregulated, pulled here and there by every stimulus, every urge.
Yeah, the monkey mind.
Exactly. The Sthitaprajna has developed the discipline to regulate and tie the mind, bringing it under conscious control. It's not about rigid repression, but cultivation. Like training a wild horse, it becomes a powerful, useful ally instead of running wild. Deep, sustained mental discipline.
Equanimity, conquered emotions, mental discipline. And what's the culmination of all this? Where does it lead?
It culminates in shanti.
Shanti, peace.
Yes, but a specific kind of peace. A profound, abiding internal peace. It's not just the absence of noise or conflict outside. It's not just a temporary break from stress. It's described as an internal silence, rooted in that transcendent state of awareness, the observer self.
A peace that doesn't depend on what's happening around you.
Exactly. A peace that emanates from within, an unshakable calm that stays with you even when life gets stormy. That's the essence of true mental mastery according to this view.
So we've come quite a long way. From Arjuna's paralysis, through understanding our deeper identity, transforming how we act, to this ideal of the steady, wise mind, the Sthitaprajna. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the final crucial message Krishna gives Arjuna after sharing all this incredible wisdom?
It's actually one of the most powerful and I think liberating parts of the whole Gita. It speaks volumes about the approach. After laying out all this profound guidance, the knowledge, the paths, Krishna essentially says to Arjuna, reflect on this fully and then do as you choose.
Wow. After everything, it's do as you choose.
Yes. It's a remarkable moment of, well, unconditional positive regard. It's completely non-directive. It's not a command, not a dogma he's imposing. It's an invitation to enlightened self-determination.
The beauty of that. It's profound, isn't it? It respects individual agency, free will, knowledge is shared, insights are given, but the final decision, the path you take, that's left entirely up to you.
Exactly. It's not about blindly following a rigid doctrine. It's about making an empowered, conscious choice that comes from a place of deep understanding, not just because someone told you to. You're given the map, the tools, but you have to walk the path yourself.
And that leads us right to the core takeaway for you, the listener, right? The ultimate role of all these psychological insights isn't just intellectual understanding, it's self-mastery.
Profound self-mastery. And that mastery gives you the clarity, the emotional resilience, the inner freedom to make purposeful choices. Choices aligned with your deeper self, not just driven by fleeting emotions or external pressures or societal expectations. You learn to choose from wisdom and inner peace, not reactive impulse.
Now, there is one aspect that often puzzles people, and we should probably touch on it. The Gita, coming from the Indian tradition, which highly values nonviolence, ahimsa, is set on a battlefield. It seems paradoxical. How can a text about inner peace be rooted in such a violent context?
That's a really important question, and it gets to the heart of the paradox of ahimsa in this specific context. It helps to distinguish between different strands within ancient Indian thought. For instance, the Jain tradition takes non-harm to an absolute extreme, right? Protecting all life, even tiny insects.
Right, very strict adherence.
But the Vedic tradition, which the Gita comes from, historically included things like animal sacrifices and certain rituals. These traditions coexisted, showing diverse views on nonviolence even back then.
So the Gita's approach isn't necessarily a simple endorsement of war. It's more of a profound psychological reframing of conflict itself.
Okay, how so?
Psychologically.
Well, think about where aggression comes from, fundamentally. Psychologically, it often stems from a perceived threat to our sense of survival and security.
Yep.
That triggers the fight or flight response.
Which is primal.
Very primal. In animals, it's usually about physical survival danger, territory. But in humans, a lot of that is shifted to the psychological realm. It's about the survival of our identity and ego.
So when our ego feels threatened.
Exactly. When that limited self, that collection of roles and beliefs we identify with, feels challenged or attacked, all those defense mechanisms kick in. And often that leads to aggressive responses, arguing, competing fiercely, lashing out.
So the Gita's path to transcending aggression isn't just about suppressing it.
No, it's deeper than that. It's about transcending the very feeling of separateness, dissolving that rigid self-other boundary that fuels conflict in the first place. When your awareness shifts, when it gets grounded in that non-egoic identity, the Atman, the universal self we talked about,
The need for aggression diminishes.
fundamentally diminishes. Because if you genuinely see the other as not truly separate from your deeper self, the impulse to harm naturally fades.
Like the mystics and yogis.
Exactly. As they often demonstrate, the more you evolve spiritually, the less you see the differentiation between the self and the other, the more and more nonviolent you will become. It's a natural consequence of expanded consciousness. And practices like Patanjali's Yama, the ethical guidelines.
Including ahimsa, non-harm.
Right. They aren't just rules. They're conscious practices designed to help you evolve towards that state where the root of aggression, that feeling of otherness and threat, dissolves because you perceive the underlying unity. It's like internal disarmament.
And there's also that perspective on death that Krishna offers Arjuna, right? That helps him deal with the immediate horror of killing.
Yes, that's crucial too. Arjuna is paralyzed by the thought of killing his kinsman, the moral weight of it. But Krishna offers this radical transcendental perspective. He tells Arjuna essentially, you are not really killing the person. That's a soul that will continue its journey.
The analogy of changing clothes.
Exactly. Like casting off worn-out clothes and putting on new ones. The soul, the eternal resident within the body, simply sheds the old worn-out body for a new one. It's framed as a transition, not an ultimate end.
So that reframes the whole act. It removes some of the fear and the absolute finality.
It removes the overwhelming moral burden associated with physical death from that limited perspective. This transcendental viewpoint recontextualizes it. It's important to remember that all this wisdom in the Gita, the Mahabharata, the Upanishads, is spoken from this elevated transcendental perspective.
Trying to grasp it only from our everyday ego-bound awareness.
Will always lead to confusion. It's like standing at the foot of Chamundi Hill trying to understand the 360-degree view from the top. You just can't see it from down there. The battlefield, in this deeper sense, becomes internal. The fight is against our own ignorance, our own limited perception.
It really is all about gaining that higher perspective, isn't it? That broader vision to resolve the conflicts that seem impossible from our usual viewpoint, transcending immediate anxieties to see the bigger picture.
Indeed, the core message resonates. True freedom isn't about changing your external circumstances or waiting for things to happen to you. It comes from that profound internal shift in identity, in action, in mindset. That's the ultimate liberation from the inner battlefield.
So, as you reflect on our deep dive today into this incredible psychological wisdom from the Bhagavad Gita, maybe consider this question for yourself. Where in your own life right now can you begin to focus more on the quality, the intention, the integrity of your action, rather than letting the anxiety of its outcome paralyze you or define your sense of peace?